So you built a new house. Congratulations, or you're building a new house. Let's dive into the building a new house. If you guys haven't already watched, I'll put in the description below. There is a video that I made about buying a new house versus building. And if you're just buying a house, great to watch this one, especially if there's still some construction going on. But if you're looking for the best deals and rates and all of that for getting a brand new home, watch that video below. That's probably going to give you a lot more value than this one. So hopefully YouTube didn't just crush me for sending people away, but hit the thumbs up before you go. That is going to help me the most. It's all about retention and people watching our videos. Let's dive right in. Let's get into the new construction. There's a few things that you have to know. New construction has nothing to do with homeowners policies that are your HO3 and your HO5 policies. We're not going to dive into the actual meanings of those, but let's just call an HO3 the most common. It's your standard peril policy where most homeowners, I would say 98% of the homeowners, have that type of policy. It doesn't cover new build, and you've got to be very careful there because there's a couple restrictions that new build does, and there's not a lot of companies that cover new build, period. So what do you really need to have for coverage for a new build? You need to know a few things before you go forward. One, who's the builder? It usually has to be a credited and a licensed builder. It can't be the person that owns the property. You're almost never gonna find somebody that will insure you if you own and you build, unless you're the owner of the company that is paying the amount for the build and you're hiring contracted people where you're the owner is not doing the work. Those are two completely different pieces. I know because I fought a whole bunch of underwriters trying to find the best fit for a customer. And at the end of the process, I ended up having to wait until they were done building it to give them a right policy, which was the HO3. The other part that you have to be a little bit careful of is don't trust the builder's insurance. They don't care about your stuff as the company. The builder might, but the insurance company is not there to protect you. They're there to protect the builder. And the builder may have $1 million liability insurance, and that's great. If he slips off the ladder, that's all fine and dandy. But what if he has, and most commonly will have, a friend with him who's not hired as an employee, and that guy slips off the ladder? And the builder either runs out of money or says, well, tough, I'm sorry, and it falls on you. So there's a lot of situations that can happen. The other parts that you got to remember is that they're not covering a lot of the portions of the house. Sure, they're covering their materials. What if they're still at the store in transit to you and they get in an accident or something is broken when you get there and the store refuses to replace it? That's where your builder's policy is going to really kick in for you, is you're going to be able to insure yourself separately from them doing whatever type of insurance they're going to carry. It's not much different than if you look at your auto policy, you have something called uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. It's very similar to buying a builder's policy because you're protecting yourself in case the person you know nothing about doesn't have the right coverage and doesn't have enough insurance. So it's not very expensive to get, but it's very important to have. So some of the things that your builder's policy is going to cover is going to be actual damage to the physical building, the structure or the dwelling. You're also going to have a lot of the building materials covered. So if something happens that is not negligent on the builder's end, or if it is, then they're going to have to go after them. On-site and off-site equipment, so anything that you're renting or using to build the home is going to be an additional coverage. Liability, that's one of the most important pieces. Make sure you have a lot of it. If not, get an umbrella that goes on top of it. It's cheap to buy and it's good to have, is going to cover you there. Personal property, so as it's being built, if you're like me, you're going to get excited and want to move all your stuff in or start moving things around. And if you don't have a renter's policy that covers all of that stuff in the background, your TV, your couch, your shoes, your wallets, all of your collectibles and everything like that, you've got to be careful there as well, because there's portions when it's in storage that don't cover your items correctly. Could be only 10%. That's a common thing. So that's going to cover a lot of that transition from one location to the next. Additional living expenses. So if something does happen to the location and you were going to move in, now you're stuck. Now you have to foot the bill again for another 5 months or 6 months or however long it takes to fix those problems with the home. Also, medical payments. That's an additional coverage that you want to have in case somebody does get injured. Not necessarily a contractor. You're going to show your friends the house, or you're going to visit and they slip on the mud or something happens and they get injured. Usually you're going to have $1,000 to $5,000, some people more, that will cover those situations. Either route you go, it's not going to be very expensive to do. We're probably talking about $100 a month to have a builder's policy. Some are cheaper, some are more depending on the building. They are going to want to know who your contractor is. They likely will want some copies of some materials, or they'll want to at least have some proof of what's happening, because they're not just going to insure just willy-nilly out of the blue. The other portion that you have to be a little bit weary of is not all companies let you just buy a month-to-month policy. So there are some companies where you're going to find it might be tough to even get a builder's policy, because not all companies, and most companies don't offer that. It's just not a common thing for them. And so they typically kind of bow out and say, let us know when you're done with the house, then we'll insure it, we're happy there. But in the meantime, we just don't have a product for you. And in those situations, you're going to find that some of the companies that you go through make you pay the entire year up front and are non-refundable. So if you know that it's going to be a year-long policy, just keep that in mind. You're great. Nothing's worried there. But if it's only going to be a 3 or 4 or 5 month process where you're almost done or you're getting close to it and you really just need that insurance, you may want to stay away from those companies that don't offer refunds for those situations. They do that because they know that you're not going to stay with them, and that risk level for the length of you being with them is way out of the spectrum, and they know that they're not going to convert you into a normal customer. So at the end of the process, there's kind of a fee or a charge to that. They're just going to charge you a 12-month policy, which is non-refundable. Now, you're probably thinking, what's the next step? Where do I go from here once the house is getting close to being built? Or what happens if I have an issue? Well, if you have an issue, the claims process is very similar. I will link a video up here that you can watch to go through the claims process and dealing with adjusters. If you're moving into the home and you're just getting ready to go, I'm also going to link that video here that we talked about in the beginning that talks about the new construction, new build. There's a lot of discounts that you guys can apply for to get on that new build home. There is one last video that you may want to watch, which is my discount video on homes, or my Home 101, which is going to go into more depth of the actual coverages that you're going to need going forward. If you're an agent or you're looking for just the biggest amount of detail that you can get for home policy, I will also link another video here, which is a playlist. You're going to get, they're about 3 to 5 minute videos, pretty short. And they go through coverage A, B, C, D, E, F. It goes through endorsements, it goes through liability portions, even I believe it goes through the umbrella portion as well. I really hope this was helpful. The thumbs up button helps me the most with YouTube's algorithm. I would appreciate a thumbs up if it was good. If you want more advice and tips like this, hit the subscribe button, turn the bell icon on so you don't miss any future videos. Otherwise, if you really loved it and you want to buy me a cup of coffee, that link is in the description below. I'm Mark with Think Insurance. I'll see you in the next one.